It's unbelievable.
All right, so as long as we got you on here and you got some time to talk futures here, so Deegan choked last night, right? Like we can all agree. No? Oh, damn, I'm off.
No.
Okay.
No, I think this is just Deegan and Deegan.
This is just what it is.
Deegan did exactly what Jett and Eli did. So who cares?
Okay.
I mean that little left-hander, which just huckabuck Jett, is exactly what with what Hayden did. And let's face it, Jett, Eli, and Hayden got beat by nobody but themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody went around Eli. Nobody went around Jett. Nobody went around Haiden Deegan. All three of them put themselves on the ground and they lost it. Who cares? It's no big deal. It's one race out of 144 this year. They're fine.
Yeah. So I will say, my West Coast reporter was at the race last night. He told me in practice, I got a text almost immediately as the futures practice was done there in the afternoon. Deegan's fucking sketchy. It was the text I got.
But that's how he rides, dude. You look at Talon Hawkins, same way. He's the same. It's just that's the day and age of the way these kids ride. I mean, is Deegan going to be successful? Yes. Everything Coach articulated. We've said this. Yeah, he's got his dad. He's gotten a lot of natural talent. He's on the best, not 250 team anymore, but 250 and 450 team.
Yeah, you could give me all of those tools, and I'm not going to touch it.
He's got Jeannie Carmichael. He's down at the goat farm. He's got his own place where I don't know if their new place in Florida is going to have a track, but he's got
everything. Jeannie has no dog in that fight. She's just trying to keep her name relevant.
Well, yeah. But it almost would be a shame if he wasn't successful. And I'm not saying he's not going to be, but it's just the way Hayden rides. Like anytime I watch a video of Hayden, there's about 4 different times in a lap that I look at him and I go, he should have hit the deck, should have hit the deck, should have hit the deck. But because he's talented enough and his brain processes information quickly, he doesn't. But
he is super good. But
I have seen him hit some corners, and I'm like,
but the thing though is you look at all those kids. Okay, you look at Dax Mennick. You look at Julian Baumer got the shit out of the deal when he framed that triple.
Fuck, that sucked. I thought he was going to win that race.
Yeah, you look at Baumer. You look at Casey Cochran, Talon Hawkins. Who was the one kid? Parker Ross, number 12. Gage Linville. All those. Who was the 17 kid? Cole Davies. I think he's the kid out of Australia.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Anybody think it's funny that Base Flu got shit off of Team Green and KTM picked him up?
Well, I mean,
no. He didn't. He didn't get shit by Team Green. Team Green redirected their amateur money to their off-road team, so that's why he's over at KTM now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because were there any Team Green guys last night?
The factory rig that we used to see at Team Green is now going to be at the Off-Road Nationals. And there's, I think, 1 or 2 Team Green programs that are kind of doing like the NSA Yamaha program.
Okay.
So that's all it is. It's just a redirection of funds. But like Seth Dennis and those guys are still riding for Factory Cowie. They're just under a different umbrella. But Blowsfood, going over, Daniel Blair killed it by picking him up. Yeah. I think he's going to be a good one for sure.
But Haiden Deegan, is he going to have a good, successful career? Yes. He's got all the tools set in place. But it's just the way it is. When you're at that, when you're at these kids that are coming in, it's a whole lot different when you're doing laps at the goat farm. And if you make a mistake, or if you're doing a motor with Thrasher and he gets loose in front of you and you check up, it's not that big of a deal. But you go into the stadium, you got all the lights, you got all the cameras flashing, people are watching you at home. The track is beat to shit. Fucking, you're hitting the base because the ruts are so deep. The faces aren't level anymore. Whoops are cupped out. It's a whole different level, and it's the same thing outdoors last year. We talked about this. Granted, Ironman was a little bit different because, hit ragdolled, bike had issues, whatever. But even when he went to Paula, a track that we know he knows rides, like the back of his hand, did he ride well? Yes, I think he was hovering around the top 10, got like 11th or 12th. But he was nowhere near top 5 speed. He was 6 seconds a lap off.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time, but
was anybody surprised that they didn't prep that track at all for them?
I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they didn't.
I was honestly shocked.
Didn't as well.
I thought for sure with the way the schedule was going that they would get done and they would prep the track for the futures kids and let them have a fresh track. And when they didn't, I was like, oh, okay. Well, we just took a sketchy race and doubled that amount of sketchiness by making it. What's it called?
Yeah, but was Hayden and Daxton and Casey, were they any sketchier than anybody else on the track?
No. They all just it's funny because they all just made mistake, like they'd hit a section clean and then the next section was not, and then they'd hit a section clean and the next section was not. Like,
but look at no disrespect to the 250 class, but to me, when you look at Jett, You look at the 3 times he went on the ground. That just wasn't Jett. That was sketchy Jett.
Yeah.
When you look at, obviously Tomac, right? We haven't seen anything similar to what we saw last night. And I think if you look at Jett, you look at Eli, and you look at Hayden, they're carbon copies of each other. I don't think Hayden is sketchy. I think Hayden, let's face it, he's been riding a Supercross track since he was on 85s.
Yeah.
He knows how to ride those types of tracks, but I just think the entire night, if you look at the consistency from Futures, 250, 450, it was a carbon copy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that if Hymus from last year and Ryder D are out there, they walk away from all those kids.
I don't know about that. If you look at how smooth Deegan is on most things, and then he was sketchy, and I don't know if I were to do like a hierarchy of Deegan against Hymus, I still think Deegan would butter Hymus the majority of the time.
Yeah,
just based on skill set.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know who else did you say, Hymus, and who else?
Hymus and Ryder D, and I'm only going off of what we've seen in those two guys from Futures last year because we don't know it. What's that?
But I think, like you said, last year, didn't they cut the track down a little bit for Futures?
I don't think so. They just rode during the day.
What's up?
You're talking previously? They cut the track down?
No, like last year for Futures. I don't think they cut the track down.
No,
they just rode during the day. They didn't ride at night, which I like the fact that they changed it and made their race at night.
Yeah.
During the night show.
Because that was real lines, real bumps, real atmosphere.
I don't see any of those kids if Hayden or to say Hawkins or even if Dax was going east next week and Hayden, who knows if he's going to or not. They go east next week, they have anything take Hunter out of it. Joe, Seth, they're not there. A Thrasher, a Smitty, a Mosman.
I disagree. No, I disagree. I think if you because what was that Futures race? 6 minutes, 7 minutes?
Yeah,
6 minutes plus 1.
Yeah, so it was a heat race.
You give Deegan a chance to get up and have twice as much time. I think you would see him in the top 5.
I was watching the time board though. It went from 16 to 14 seconds, so not as much as I thought it did.
So Justin, think about East Coast. Let's say that Seth go each team. Let's say Seth is there. Let's say Shimoda is there.
Yep.
What other teams would be on East Coast for next week?
So next week, take out Joe and Seth, and we're actually going to do an East preview before we end the show. For each team, it's Hunter and Hymus. Vial is the only one on KTM. Obviously, Swole's out or whatever's going on with him. Smitty, Thrasher, Romano. And then if you count the club guys, what's going on with J. Martin and Marchbanks. Those are the top guys that you'd be looking at. And then if you included Swole, Joe, and Seth if they were healthy.
Don't forget Mosman.
Oh, and Mosman too for Gas.
And no disrespect to any of those guys, but Hunter, Hymus, Vial, Thrasher, Romano, Marchbanks, J. Mart, Mosman, you don't see Hayden being able to get into the mix of that?
I think if you had all those guys healthy, I think that Hayden can beat Swole. I think that Hayden and Hymus are probably the same. I think Hayden and Romano. I think Hayden's probably faster than Romano, either because
I've heard Hayden is faster than any 250 rider at the Goat Farm.
See, and Travis, you were talking about the same thing, but man,
that's what I'm hearing too, man.
And that may be true. I think I just look at Thrasher and what he can do when he pulls his head out of his ass. Who knows what we're going to do out of Smitty
Oh,
this
God,
year.
here we go. We're going to go down this Thrasher train here.
We're going to. And then with Seth, the way he rode last year before he got hurt, and Joe and all them. And I don't want to come off as I'm disrespecting Hayden. Like I said,
You're not at all.
I just don't know if I could see him running that pace at the end of a night for 15 minutes.
Give him 2 years, maybe.
Yeah, maybe 2 years without hitting the ground. And obviously all those dudes as well. I don't see him being able to do it yet. And yet is the key word for 15 minutes.
He's already doing it during the week.
Yeah.
That's the part that's crazy. If he's out in California and he was at a track that just has a Supercross track and you show your pro license and you go out and you ride by yourself, but riding with Ferrandis and riding with Thrasher and Romano and he's going faster than everybody else, and there's no way those guys are letting him do 10-minute motos.
Yeah.
He's doing 20, 25-minute motos. That's where I think it's going to be a game changer because look at the depth of talent he's riding with 5 days a week.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Does anybody? What's the probability we're actually going to see him at Houston?
I don't think we see him at Houston, but I think we could see him at Tampa.
I think you'll see him at Houston.
What's your percentage pie?
85%.
They've been hyping it pretty good for like, oh, we might
When Daniel Blair said on the podcast, or excuse me, on the broadcast, that lots of talk about it, that to me is what sealed the deal. I'd heard some rumblings about it, which obviously I have to laugh out loud because they were so adamant. Those guys are a bunch of effing idiots. What the hell are they talking about? We're gonna go. We're too young. We're gonna give a year. We got to groom. We got to learn.
Yeah.
And then when you're the fastest guy at the testing or at the practice track, and then you have Daniel Blair, who's probably more plugged in than anyone I know.
Mm-hmm.
When he on a public broadcast says we're hearing that he's going to be there next week, that to me is what sealed the deal, because I don't believe that Daniel would have ever made that comment if there was a remote chance that he would not show up next week.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope we do. I really hope so.
I do too. I do too.
I mean, I think it would.
And think about it. Now that the entire pro circuit team is decimated and Swole is out, I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean, I don't want that to sound crazy, but you're looking at only roughly, well, I guess it's the same as the West Coast. You really only have 10 guys in the 250 class that are factory. If you really stop and break it down.
I think your top 5 guys, you're probably looking at Hunter, Smitty, Thrasher, Mosman, and Vial. I think those.
You think Jordan Smith is going to do something?
I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. He could be 5th.
I think it's in there.
I think he could be 5th, and he could be 10 seconds back. But I think without Joe and Seth, I'm not going to count Jalik. It's no disrespect to him, but we just know that Jalik has problems and whoops. Smitty could be 5th. He could be the 5th place guy. But I think with Joe and Seth being out, I think that on speed alone, if he stays on 2 wheels, and that's the big if, I think there should be no reason why he's not 5th. Now,
I totally agree.
If he gets on the podium,
of him staying on 2 wheels, I agree with you 1,000%.
Yes, and once again,
I just don't think he can.
Yeah, and we know that's a problem with him, and we really do. But I think that without Joe and Seth, I think those are your top 5 guys. If Joe and Seth were in there, you're going to have to take Smitty out. I don't know which guy you want to take out. Vial, Thrasher, I don't know, but I think it would have been.
I think if you put Hunter and then you put any of the star guys, would you say Justin? There's what, Romano, Marchbanks. Who's the third one? Thrasher.
Yep.
And then you add Deegan into that mix.
Yep.
Again, Mosiman is a lot like Smith. Obviously, he's got the speed, but just can't seem to put it all together consistently.
Yep.
I don't think Hymas is going to be able to handle the intensity that these guys are about to serve up. Good rider. But I think it goes back to like what Cole was saying. Give him a year or two, and I think we might see a little bit more of them.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you take 2 or 3 of those star Yamaha guys, including Deegan, the only person I see that can consistently run up front is Hunter.
Yeah.
So, like you say, that now you're at a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And are you hearing the same thing I am, that Hunter actually made a step and is like running with Jett at this point?
I mean,
I heard he's faster than Jett right now.
Really?
I mean, let's be real though. There were times last year where he beat him in Atlanta. He was faster than him all day.
Yeah. I'm just saying. But now I'm hearing consistently he's the same speed or faster. Yeah. So
here's the scary part. If you go back and turn back the calendar a couple of years ago, remember when Hunter was the reason why the Lawrence family was even recognized?
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately. Yep. And Dazzy, the dad, even talked about it on Whiskey Throttle. Unfortunately, they learned a lot of mistakes through Hunter. That's allowed Jett to kind of get to where he's at. And Hunter's healthy. Hunter's mature. Let's face it, Hunter is actually a better rider than Jett if you look at it on records, books, and results. Yeah. Now you bring a healthy Hunter in on a Honda that can run the speed of Star Yamaha. I think you're about to see a paradigm shift with Hunter this year.
Maybe. We'll see. I
hope
hope
he
so.
worked out his racecraft.
I hope so.
I don't think it's going to be a maybe. I think it's going to be a holy shit. Where did he come from?
Yeah. I mean, so last year he made that step of like actually winning a Supercross and getting through the whole season. So I could definitely see things.
He beat his brother in the shootout.
Yeah, I could definitely see things getting interesting.
He's got to be able to.
That was the first season he's ever completed.
Yeah,
he's got to be able to close out a championship. That's my only thing. And I love Hunter. Like I've been on the Hunter train when he was still over doing GPs. His only issue is he's not been able to close out championships. Because I think if you go back to 2021 Supercross, he's been in 3-4 championships at some point, and he just has that one bonehead mistake. But I hope so. I hope he can get a title. I really do, because
look at what Cole just said though.
Yeah,
he finally finished a season since he's been here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
With beating Jett, and Jett last year was as fast as he is right now, and Hunter got the upper hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think this is going to be a very interesting, like you say, between what we're hearing at the test track and then Hunter coming in healthy, as to Cole's point, finishing a season healthy, incredibly important for confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Stealing a line from Jeff Emig, momentum over a points lead all day long. We may see a big shift here come next weekend, and I personally would love to see it, because I think Hunter and Jett, what I love about them the most is they don't mince words and they just talk. Did you guys hear when they did the
interview after the first race last night, and Jett's like, I don't even know why you're interviewing me.
I couldn't. How incredibly authentic is that? I'm a fucking
awesome.
loser. Why are you interviewing third place? And second place didn't even get interviewed. And Jett's like, why the fuck are you interviewing me?
Yep.
Well, look, I hope Hunter makes it through Supercross, wins the title, because then outdoors is going to be a war.
Hey, how damn cool would it be? East and West Coast Lawrence brothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I don't think it's unrealistic at all, Cole. I don't think it's unrealistic at all.
I think
you look at them at Des Nations. You look at them at Des Nations, the way they work together.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the fact that the Hondas seems to be on point with the Stars this year. The person that I feel the worst for is J Mart. Remember when he was just running his ass off trying to run down those Star Yamahas with J Coop?
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. I mean, he's fucking going as wide as he can, third gear through every corner, never putting his foot down. And J Coop would just walk away from him, to the point that J Mart wadded himself over that jump, remember?
Yep.
And re-injured himself. And now you watch these Hondas, and they seem to be on point with Star. Give that bike back to J Mart. What would we see?
Yep.
You know
what? With getting back to the futures a little bit here, what do we make of Dax Bennett winning last night?
I mean, he's been riding a Supercross track for a long time too, man.
Anything? No, nothing. Okay.
He would have been nothing more than third place if it hadn't been for people making mistakes. Haiden Deegan should have won it all night long. I think Talon, that was the one that got away from him. He let it all. He was second till the last lap.
Yep.
I had it as Deegan, Talon, and Casey Cochran, because Casey's a really good starter.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what you said earlier, I think Daxon is a little bit sketchier than a Deegan is, but Daxon just picked up on everybody's mistakes, and I think you still can't count out. I can never pronounce his last name. Justin will have to help me. Blasflug?
Baseflug, yep.
Blaseflug. I think he is another guy that's kind of under the radar. I really love the fact that he's working with Daniel Blair. Daniel is really interested in the long play, which I think is going to help all of the Orange Brigade riders.
Yeah,
because Daniel, he's been there, done that, and he's like, hey, I'm not really worried about what you can do right now. It's what can you blossom into. I think anybody that's under the Orange Brigade with Daniel Blair, that is a tremendous asset for you long term.
What do you guys make of
how about
Baumer?
Baumer? Yeah, what about him?
He's good, man, but
I've never heard of him.
He didn't really start coming on strong until area qualifiers last year, then through regionals. I don't know what he did at Loretta's, but I know he was up there.
Is he on his own deal, or who's he riding?
Like
for?
He's
Yamaha.
He's gonna be. Yeah, he's gonna. It's not NSA. He's getting help from Jamie Ellis at Twisted.
Okay.
Who is it? His
Millsaps is helping him out.
Yep. Well, his riding coach was the same guy that was helping out Joe up until Joe went to Nick Way. Kid's fast, but he just needs a little bit of help. But apparently, it won't be long until he's getting. I don't know who's going to help him.
Star.
Well, I don't know about Star, but he's going to be getting help from someone.
That's because he kind of was an under the radar guy, and I've seen some videos of him riding at Milestone or some of the out west tracks. I was like, I think he could be in this conversation with some of those guys.
His heater at the end of the day was 0.6 faster than everybody else's.
Yeah.
So,
and then he looked good in that race until he cased that jump.
He was actually the first future to 3 out of that table. He was doing it in press day. Yeah.
What do you know about him, Coach?
Think about that right there. How badass is that?
Oh, it's great. I mean, especially when you're pretty much doing everything on your own.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what kind of money his parents got, what kind of help he's getting, as far as financial, if he's not getting a ride. But he's one of those kids, man, that kind of just came out of nowhere, and it's probably because he's just working his ass off.
What do you make
He is working his ass off, yep.
What do you make of the comment that was made on the broadcast last night of, like, Daxton being on, like, a tryout deal or something with Star? Like, they said that, and I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Because when it came out, it was like, okay, he's riding Star. And now you're telling me he's on a tryout deal? Like, what the fuck does that mean?
That's a really nice way of saying pay to play.
Yeah, I mean, if they plucked him off of KTM, and I mean, let's face it, I mean, out of that development program, it's going to be Deegan as number one. The fact that they brought Daxton along, it just fits right in line with Star Yamaha's number one plan, and that is, and again, I tip my hat to the entire program. They keep their feeder program full. Mm-hmm. They're never without a rider. And I don't know why other teams don't stop. I understand there's a little bit of money involved with this, but like, look at TLD team. Why would there not be one or two other riders that if somebody, I mean, look at the summer that they put Chiz on the bike and paid him a boatload of money because Monster was tagging Star Yamaha. Every race that there wasn't a Monster logo on the track, they're getting a financial penalty.
Yeah.
So they just let Chiz race the bike to save the losses.
Yep.
I mean, let's think about it. JGR, because remember they lost Cycle Trader originally because they didn't have representation on the track, and then it just
is that what that was?
There. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look at that summer. All their riders were injured. They had no representation on the track. So Cycle Trader pulled out, and then it just cascaded from there. It's like I've said for years, I've got a couple private investors that are asking me to start a pro team. And what I said to them is I am not interested in starting a pro team until we can find a way to create equity in a team. And the only way to do that is to have the riders earn a percentage of wealth through the equity and the value of the team, period.
Coach, I got some ideas. We need to talk about this.
Jesus.
And then when you're done racing, like let's say that you move on to a bigger team, if the team value went from $1 million to $2 million and you have 10% shares, you get a check for $100,000 as a cash out for improving the net equity of the team.
Ooh, take a team public. Put it on the
exactly
NASDAQ.
It. But the idea is there's no equity in a team. And like I told the two people that approached me, I know I can build athletes that will keep your semi full. I can promise you that. The problem that we run into is the sponsors, they're paying for representation. And if you can't guarantee the representation, like for example, I would do a 250 rider, a 450 rider, and then I would have not one, but I would have two backup riders for both classes. Mm-hmm. You put them on the exact same equipment. You put everything, tires, suspension, motor work, everything. Heaven forbid Jalik Swoll breaks his arm. There's no worries. We've got another guy right behind him. Don't even need to worry about it. Sponsor A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Go ahead, Cole. I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but JGR did it with Phil, and I thought that worked great. Like they do it in NASCAR. Why? Yeah. Why did that?
Look at the financial penalties of WSX. They made it part of the contract.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and haven't you heard with the WSX, the teams, from what I understand, are literally talking and saying, okay, what if we all pull a little bit of money and we get 3 or 4 dudes that we're all paying, and that way if any of us have an injury, we can just pull from the 3 or 4 dudes that we're paying to essentially stay sharp. Yeah, but the teams are doing it like collectively. It's not like an individual team's like, okay, cool, I'm going to pay 3 dudes.
Way it should be.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, to me, that seems like a great idea.
I mean, it works in Formula 1.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. You have 5 or 6 guys now that are making some decent money that justifies the amount of work that they put in.
Yep.
And it goes back full circle. And I said this on the last shit show. Can you imagine a professional baseball player having to pay to bring their family to a baseball game?
Yep. I heard you talk about this too.
How ridiculous is that? And so you come full circle. If the teams work together, there's never going to be a lack of corporate presence on the track. It's just absolutely amazing. We have, for the listeners that may not know, 2023 is the 14th year that I've had an amateur development program. We only open it up and we have 20 spots every year. The last 2 years, we've had over 3,000 resumes for 20 spots.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, we have 6 corporate sponsors, and I limited it to 6 so that it doesn't become brandalized. We have 11 people that want to be corporate partners, and not one of them are in the sport of motocross.
Yep.
because they like the idea of a junior development. They like the amateur development, just like baseball, any ball and stick sport. Now, I'm not a genius. I just saw a need, fill a need, kind of like stealing a line from the Robots movie, right? It's the idea here is it's like, I want to make sure that I can hand off riders to teams. I've done it with AC, Jordan Bailey, Logan Best, Seth Hammaker. The idea here is we need to hand athletes off that are ready to go the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I've got investors that come to me and say, Rob, let's build a pro team, I'm like, for what? A pro team, you guys have listened to Kenny Watson talk about. They were told, hey, you take your Dodge money and go beat sand. You can't have a Dodge car on the property. So what did Kenny Watson do? He put a car on the back of the lift gate and he lifted it off the ground 2 inches and said, there's not a car on the property.
Mm-hmm.
What'd they tell him? Get rid of it.
Yep.
You look at Astrofin, look at him on Gypsy Tales. He talked about it. You look at Kenny Watson. He talked about it on Whiskey Throttle. The idea here is until the promoters change the narrative to make it lucrative for somebody to invest in a team, and then the riders increase their net equity because of the value they bring to a team. I hate to say it, but it goes back to like what Cole was saying. I believe Brian is the guy that's starting to figure it out. I'm bringing equity into an investment of 10 years ago. Now I'm going to take a dividend on that investment. No brainer.
I mean, here's the funny thing. He really should go, looking at it from that aspect, he should go to Feld and be like, I want this much money for my kid to race here. I'm going to take him to World Supercross because he gets more views in a month than Supercross does in an entire year.
That would be the ultimate trump card move if Brian did it.
Dude,
I think Brian would do it.
I was going to say, Brian's the type of guy that would do it. I 100% would be doing that if that was my kid. Like, look, you're going to pay me to race here, or I'm going to go to World Supercross and take all million of my followers, and let's say they do 10, 20 million views a month throughout everything, and take all 20 million of those, and we're going to go travel the world and do World Supercross if you don't want to pay. So figure it out.
Yeah. There's about to be a huge momentum shift because let's face it, Hayden is the first rider that can do exactly what you just said, Trav.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first guy that could have, I know you're talking about Brian doing the negotiating, but You're exactly right. It isn't the same landscape that we had 5, 8, 10 years ago.
Yep.
Anywhere. And go full circle to what Cole said. If you have Brian that invested in that and now is, leveraging that investment, best equipment, best riding facility, and then you start to momentumize that going forward, guess what? You've got yourself a completely different. Look at what Roxon did and all of the noise that he created by committing to WSX.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Kenny, but if Haiden Deegan were to go do exactly what Roxon did, it would completely, literally, almost like an earthquake, it would shift the foundation of our sport.
Mm-hmm.
Because can you imagine the vacuum he would create if he left America?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And can you imagine this? This was something that I talked to somebody about. Can you imagine going and racing MXGPs and WSX?
That'd be awesome.
I'd be all about it.
Because what is WSX? 4 rounds or 6 rounds for 23? 24?
6.
6 rounds plus MXGPs, which is only Justin's the guru. How many total months do they race MXGPs? It's 5, right?
The first round is March 12th, and then I think they're going to this year until September. But you got to remember they have a bunch of two week
breaks.
Yeah, 2-week breaks because a lot of their guys run their own national series, like the Dutch series, the French series, the German series. So
let's just go 6 months to your point.
Yep.
Let's just go 6 months. 6 months plus 6 weekends of WSX compared to 31 rounds of the Humpty Dumpty series, as Justin called it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. Now, again, I'm not friends with Deegan at all. I've never had the privilege of meeting him. You know what I mean? Not to have a conversation with him, but it's one of those situations where you can't help but wonder the bigger picture and the moving parts. That's not unrealistic at all.
Well, and the Yamaha owner over there would sure shit pay him a lot of money, just as much money as Bobby Regan would.
Well, and like you said, that's where I think everybody's got to be on their toes because if that idea were to literally germinate, how would you keep that from happening? Because the MXGPs, they run it like a business. I've always said that, Justin. Again, you're more of a aficionado of that, but if you look at the MXGPs, they run it as almost like a Formula One.
Yep.
And I know it sucks. Like, there's no prize money. And how do you say his name, Justin? Giuseppe? I think it's how you call it.
Yeah, Giuseppe. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty scrupulous, maybe an unscrupulous, depending on what side of the fence you're on. But he's pretty unscrupulous, and you don't mess with him, and all that goes with it. But yeah, I just think that there's a lot of momentum shifts that it's almost like a pendulum. I think if something like that were to happen and then it were to come back and cross-germinate into our own 31 rounds, it would change the playground quite quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a new era. It's a new era with Jett and Deegan, for sure.
Yeah, so Coach,